Hey Vid Heads, welcome back to another good video. We're going to be doing something different in this episode. The Sony A7S III ProRes RAW color correction, plus a few tips after this. My name is Aaron Jones and I'm a big brother and I got your back. If you've been around this channel any other time, you know this channel is all about iron sharpening iron and we all taking our skill to the next level. If you're alright with that, go ahead and hit subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell because I don't want you to miss anything that may end up helping you. What we're going to do right now is dig right into the Sony A7S III ProRes RAW and how to color correct. Okay, Vidheads, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our clips and we're going to put them on our timeline. So let's do that right now. First, we're going to highlight our timeline area here where our sequence goes, and we're going to do Control N. For Mac users, I think it's Command N. And then we're going to go to ProRes RAW 4K. And these are, let me see what they are. These are 60 frames per second, but I'm going to put it on a 24 frames per second timeline. So let's just do that. Control N, ProRes RAW 4K. We're going to do 24 frames per second, and we're going to call this RAW. Alright, so I'm going to take clip 27 and clip 31. I'm going to drag them down here. I'm going to say change the sequence settings. Because one thing you want to understand is that, so the ProRes RAW coming out of the Ninja 5 is 4.2K. And so the video size is going to be 4264 by 2408. It's slightly bigger than 4K. So now that we have our clips on a timeline here, we want to go to our effects control panel here. And so in the effects control panel, the first thing we want to do is I want to show you guys what the scopes look like. And so this is our waveform. As you can see, everything is blown out. As you can see in the image here in our program window, it's all blown out. This is not, how should I say, this is not regular a codec. So all you're seeing is the information coming from the sensor. You're not seeing it in a codec. So what we have to do is first is debar it and put it in a codec. And Premiere Pro has made that very simple. So we go to our effects control panel here. We're gonna highlight our clip, and then we're gonna go to our master tab here. And in this master tab where it says color space, we're gonna go from BT709. We're gonna go to S7SIII, S3 Cine, S-Log3. You see the difference? All of a sudden, now we're in a codec. So now I put all the information it could inside this S-Log3. And so now when we go to our scopes, see how it looks a little different. So now we have a lot of room in our shadows and we have a lot of room in our highs here. So now we're going to go start the process of color correction. So let's jump out of our master tab. Let's go back into our clip tab here. And in our clip tab, the first thing I want to do, I want to look at my scopes and then I want to start adjusting. So I go over here to my curves, and first thing I do is I bring down my shadows. Now, when I bring down my shadows, I don't bring them all the way down. I'm not trying to crush them like that. I want to leave room for grading. So I always leave some room, because once you bring them all the way down to the zero line here, which means completely black, there's no more room for any kind of grading or anything like that. You have already crushed your blacks. So what I like to do is I like to give my shadows a little bit of room for grading purposes. Then I bring up my highlights. Well, we know that these right here are clipped because there's no definition here in these clips. And so that's these lights here. So there's no definition there. So I can actually take that all the way up to the top, which would be completely white. Okay, so now we have put our contrast in. So now let's bring our color back a little bit by using the saturation tool. So in our saturation tool, I'm gonna come back probably about in between 140, 145. I find that that's my sweet spot, which I seem to like. Somewhere around in here, which is 146.4. I don't know, it looks good to me. It looks like that's what it looked like on that particular day. So now that I have that going, so now I can actually look at, kind of scrub through, make sure everything is looking pretty decent. And as you guys can see, we have pretty much color corrected this. So the last thing to do is to make sure we get our white balance, make sure our white balance is kind of, you know, on par. And so one thing you can do is you can try to find something white. It's always best to white balance in camera the day of the shoot. That's the best scenario. But if you're lazy like me, sometimes I don't do that. And so I end up white balancing in post. So like her eye right here is white. Her stripe on her jacket is white right here. So I just kind of scrub through and I look for whatever is white that I can actually put the eyedropper on. So basically you're just telling Premiere Pro what actually white looks like when you do that. So I think I'm gonna go back to her eye right here. So you hit the dropper and then you put it in her eye. See the difference? Before? Oh, my bad. And after. Before. And after. So there's a little bit of difference there. And so now what I want to teach you guys a little bit of a trick that I've learned. I've been learning color correction and I took a class on coloring, this type of things. And so I'm going to show you guys a tip that I've learned, how to get the skin tones correct. And so I picked this part of the clip because I have a lot of skin tone here. And so you don't have to worry about if the person is African American, if the person is Caucasian, or whatever ethnic they are. This is going to be the same process because they still have the same amount of orange in their skin. It all comes from the same color space, if you will. And so with that said, the first thing you want to do is I want to bring up my vector scope YUV. All right, and I'm going to get rid of my waveform so my vector scope can be bigger so you can see it. Then I'm going to go over to my effects control panel, and in opacity I'm going to use the pen tool. And in the pen tool, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cut out parts of her face. I'm going to cut out enough so I can get a good understanding of her color of her face, like this. And then we're going to look at the scope. Now, if you notice, this line right here is the skin tone line, and we want the skin tone, this is what's left. This is the skin tone because we isolated the skin tone here, and that's what we're seeing right here on this scope. And we want this skin tone to line up with this skin tone line, right? And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our curves. This is very simple, so don't worry. We'll go to our curves. We're going to go hue to hue. Now, hue to hue, basically, we're going to take our eyedropper tool, and what I like to do is I like to get into like the darker parts of the skin color. I find that works a little bit better for me. So like right up in here, right? And so when I hit that eyedropper tool, see, it already put the 3 points on the line here, right here on the scope, on the hue to hue scope here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this middle dot until my skin tones here lines up with this line. So this is what we're gonna do. So I'm dragging it, and I'm looking at the best case scenario. So I go up, down, down. Let's see if I go down and over. Like right here seems like the best case scenario. Okay. So now let's go back to our effects. I'm gonna delete this mask I just created. And so this is what it looks like afterwards. This is before, this is after. See the difference? So it looks like I may have a little too much saturation in here. So let me adjust that a little bit. Bring that down some. So now we can do the same thing with her face. So take my pen tool and I'm just gonna cut out parts of her face here. Then I'm gonna look at my scope. See, it's a little off a little bit. And so it's always good to kind of get a couple different people in your scene if you can and kind of adjust it a little bit. But I'm only a touch off, not much. So I'm gonna go back down to my curves again. I'm gonna go back down to hue to hue right here. And I'm just gonna adjust it a little bit. See which way is better. Looks like right there. All right, I'm gonna delete my mask. See, before we even start adjusting skin color and after. Before, after. So the problem with this is if it's just a little off, that's fine, and you make your adjustment. But if it's a lot off, then you're gonna have to make a mask around their skin tone, and so that it doesn't affect the rest of your frame. But here, it's gonna be just fine because by adjusting the skin tones here, it's actually correcting the color in the rest of the frame as well. A lot of times you're gonna find that you have the wrong light on your subject and you might have to adjust the skin tone because of the lighting or something like that. And so you might wanna isolate just the skin tone on just that particular character or subject. And so that's why you would end up probably tracking your skin tone correction. But see how simple that was? That was painless and it was easy. It's just all about knowing how to get through it. Now, I'm not a colorist, and I want to state that as the obvious at this point. I'm not a professional. I'm not an expert. This is what I use for my particular raw flow. I just wanted to share that with you guys, hoping that that would help you if you're trying to figure out how to color correct your raw. Because when I first got the camera, I was trying to figure all this out. I was trying to figure out how to get the information to a codec, and I didn't know nothing about the master tab here. I didn't know anything about this. And so, yeah, this helped me out a lot. As you can see, this looks like a really good image. Now it's playing a little choppy because I have it in a 24 frame sequence. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slow it down to where it matches the 24 frames per second. So I'm going to go to speed duration and I'm going to go to 40%. Okay. So now I'm going to play it. See, the skin tones look awesome here. Now this is out of the Sony A7S III. It's an awesome looking image, in my opinion. So let's do one more. Let me find a good spot in this video here. All right, so we're gonna go to our scope. First, I wanna go to my waveform. I'm going to get rid of the vector scope momentarily. Going back to my effects control panel, I'm gonna go to my master tab, and I'm gonna change it from BT709 to S-Log3. And see what happened to my scopes. All right, so now I'm gonna go back to my clip tab here, and now I'm gonna start my process of correcting this. So I'm gonna go to my base. No, I'm not gonna go to. I'm gonna go to my curves. Again, I'm not gonna go all the way down to the blacks. I want to leave some room. That's about good. All right, so now let's bring some color in with the saturation. Somewhere around 140. Okay. So now what I'm going to do here is we're going to first do a white balance. And another thing I want to show you guys real quick. Let me go to this part of the frame. Right here. You see all this white right here? Well, I'm going to show you how to nail your white balance by doing the same type of technique I showed you with the skin tones. So with that, we're going to go to our effects control panel. We're going to go to our opacity and get the pen tool. We're going to do another mask. And what I'm going to do is found something white here. And I'm just going to mask it out. Just like that. So now, instead of going to my vector scope, I'm going to go to the parade. And the parade, what that does is it shows you the RGB separately. Now, the waveform shows you the exact same thing, but they're on top of each other as opposed to being separate. So we'll go to the parade. So in this, what we need to do in order to get this white balance correctly, as you can see, we white balanced it, but it's still not quite white balanced. How do I know? It's because the red, the green, and the blue should be the same right across the board. They should be like on the same plane. One should not be above the other. They should all be even. If they're all even, then that means we have achieved a good white balance. Because all we can see right now is white. So it should be 255, which is all the way across. They should be parallel. So we see that the blue channel is up higher. So let's see if we can adjust it in our temperature here. But when we adjust our blue in the temperature, we affect our red, it looks like. See how that goes? So we can try to get as close as we can. But ultimately, it's probably best to go to our curves here. I can go to my green or my blue and adjust it just a touch. Down a touch. I think that's about right there. And my red, it's got to come down. I think it's about good right there. So we go to our mask, we get rid of our mask, and we get to see our white balance. All right. So it looks like I shot this a little bright, so I'm gonna bring the exposure down a touch. See, this is the beauty of RAW right here. But normally I would do that in my master tab. Bring this up a little bit. And let's check our skin tones. Tell you right now, they're off. I can see it in his skin tone here. So what I'm gonna do, okay, I'm gonna get our vector scope. Get rid of our parade. As you can see, it's a little bit off. Now, again, we need to line, this is the skin tone line. We need to line our skin tone hue up with the skin tone line here. So we're gonna go to our curves. We're gonna go to hue, get our eyedropper, take a sample of the skin tone. It automatically put our points here for us. Then we make our adjustment. Kind of like that. So we're gonna go and delete our mask, take a look. All right. Before, after. Big difference. Big difference. Another thing, let's go back to the original. And I'm gonna go here, and I'm going to adjust exposure here. All right. See, that looks spot on right there. That is spot on. His skin tone is exactly the way I saw it. And so I'm going to do the same here. I'm going to make it equivalent to 24 frames per second by slowing it down to 40%. Okay, so we're gonna play this, and so you guys can get a good idea. Now this is 60 frames per second, slowed down 40% in a 24 frames per second timeline. This is our friend Amy here at the restaurant we frequent, me and my wife. Okay, so I just want you guys to get a good idea on how easy it is to color correct the ProRes RAW in Premiere Pro. My machine is not the best when it comes to dealing with the A7S3 codecs. I'm in the process of upgrading my machine, but it does play the RAW pretty well, especially when I'm actually playing it in 24 frames per second. Again, I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope you guys got the tips and tricks out of this, and I hope it kind of demystify a little bit how to actually color correct your ProRes RAW. At least this is the way I do it, and it works for me. Now, I'm pretty sure I probably need to actually do more exposure adjustment in the master tab. That would be ideal. So basically you take your scope and you can actually bring it over here, right? Let's see, sorry. And then you bring up your waveform. And you can adjust exposure here. I think ideally it'd be best to make adjustments for exposure here in the master tab where the RAW is processed into or debayered into the S-Log3. But I'm more comfortable doing it here in the tab here. I don't see any issues. And I guess if I have any problems with getting my footage proper, I will go back to that master tab and actually do it there. Thank you for watching. I'm Aaron Jones. I'm your big brother, and I got your back. Don't forget to comment down below, hit subscribe, give me your thumbs up if you like this video, and stay tuned for more because I got more coming at you.